Recently saw something shared by what I guess you would call a professional spiritual guru. One of those dudes that makes videos and publishes books, and it's really stuck in my craw. And I want to talk about it, but I don't want to talk about it because it's stuck in my craw. I'm not interested in blasting out just my own feelings out there in the world. Nor do I have any real desire to get mired in controversy or anything like that. That's why I am not mentioning the specific person's name. I make this even though I am, like I said, in full disclosure, really annoyed by what I've seen. But I share it because for all of you, I know what it's like to be a seeker, man. Like I've been a seeker my whole life, trying to figure out not only what is this reality about, what is this universe about, but how am I supposed to live my life? How am I supposed to conduct myself? I want to know how I'm supposed to conduct myself. I want to know that I'm doing the right thing. and I know what it's like to be a sincere seeker. And I also know how people who are so desperate out of the best intentions, man, the best feelings, are so desperate for the right answer that it can make you fall prey to a bunch of nonsense and a bunch of users and abusers. Speaking of which, this blew me away. This will be a quick aside, but this book, The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying by Sogyal Rinpoche, was one of the most influential books on me personally my entire life. Positively influential. I put it in the top 5. This book I read it while I was overseas, and at a time when some things happened, and it was a very, very positively impactful book to me. Found out that Sogyal Rinpoche, after he became bigger and became like a full-blown guru, he became a very abusive person, specifically to women. It's quite a big thing if you look it up. I mean, it's quite a trial. He did some pretty horrendous things to people and abused his position. But anyway, so this person that I'm talking about, this guru, I'm not going to mention by name. Suffice it to say, he's got a huge following. He's a professional. He makes his money by preaching about spirituality and manifestation and all of these things in books and on YouTube and all these other places. And he has a recurring theme, which is one that I find among all of these gurus. And it's not the theme that bothers me, it's the presentation that really annoys me. The short of it is this. The man is sitting there talking about how like humanity needs to enter this new spiritual awakening or whatever. Which I can dig. I can get behind that, man. I mean, I'm pretty open-minded about things. I'm not yet convinced that we don't live in a simulation. I'm not yet convinced that the scientific materialists are right and that it's all just dead matter. Maybe there's a God. I live with the belief that there is a God and there is a moral direction to my life, but I'm not fanatic about it. I'm not dogmatic about it. I understand that I'm a human being and I'm fallible, and maybe I don't know the exact nature of the universe, but and that's why I'm a seeker, right? I'm looking for the answers. But all right, got a little sidetracked there. What this gentleman was saying is he's telling people again about materialism, man, and not scientific materialism, about materialism in the sense of like really liking material possessions, right? The more pedestrian form of materialism, the way that most people use the word. And the reason why it was absurd. It's absurd, man. And the reason why it made me laugh, but it also bugged me and made me like compelled to say something, is the dude is saying this while he's literally sitting in a frickin' mansion with a fire behind him. And I've seen his house in other videos. He has this beautiful house on the beach. I mean, it's gorgeous. He has all the best of everything in his home. And not only that, but half of the other videos that he makes, he's teaching people how they can manifest the things that they want in life, including material possessions. And yet, he will sit there in his mansion, surrounded by the best that money has to buy, and tell people about how foolish wanting material things is. And it really bugs me. It bugs me for multiple reasons. Number one, I grew up with not a lot of money. I've had to work very hard to be where I am. And let me tell you something, being poor sucks. And anybody who tries to say that being poor doesn't suck, sorry, you're full of crap. And you should not be pushing that poisonous mindset. But even worse, the thing that really gets me, and the reason why I have to say something about it, is because when you teach people, when you preach to people that wanting material comfort is inherently wrong or evil, you stop that person from making their own lives better. And that's a bunch of crap, man. That's just a bunch of crap. Like, if you're out there and you don't have any money, I completely encourage, I actually implore you to become financially sound, to become financially savvy, and to figure out a way to create a baseline of material security. Like, obviously, anything taken to its extreme is a negative, including the love of material goods. But saying that, like, trying to pursue material comfort is always bad and foolish and, spiritually myopic, it's not just wrong, it's toxic and corrosive, and it hurts people. And it has been infused in the spiritual seeking community, especially since the 1960s, when all of a sudden it became, hey man, it's not about money, it's not about materialism, man. And you have these generations of seekers that glorify poverty, and it's a bunch of nonsense. It's nonsense on a macro scale, because having material resources increases your ability to positively influence the world. As far as I'm concerned, what we need is more good rich people. We need more good rich people. The answer is not to convince good people that they shouldn't have any money. And who benefits the most from that is the bad rich people, right? I mean, it's freaking idiotic. It's completely idiotic. But it's toxic and it's harmful, and it's been rampant throughout these like esoteric spiritual communities since the 1960s, and it has to be called out, because it's total nonsense. And but also, just even assuming that the argument could be made that it would be better to intentionally seek out poverty. Okay, but it doesn't seem like somebody who's living in an actual mansion with right next to his head was a vase right behind him on a table. I'm not somebody who's capable of appraising value of such things, but it looked like a pretty nice frickin' vase. And as far as I'm concerned, there's few things more indulgent than things like just decorations like vases and stuff like that. I like art. I'm not bashing art. I'm just saying, if you are, if you're in need, art is going to be your last thing, right? It's going to be food, shelter, warmth, etc., etc. And then I'll be like, okay, now let's start filling in some art. So I think in that aspect, it's one of the more vapid ways you can spend your money. Doesn't mean it's bad. I'm just saying that it is a cherry on top of when you have everything else sorted out in your life, right? and the fact that the dude is sitting there in a mansion with this super expensive vase next to his head, preaching about how you shouldn't be materialistic is inherently absurd, even if one were to argue that we shouldn't want anything. It's ridiculous. And I actually do care less about material things than anybody I personally know. It's never been a big deal to me. For me to be happy, I more need just books, running sneakers, and that's really about it. The basics, warmth, a bed to sleep in, whatever. Even that is sometimes negotiable. But there's a big chunk of snow fell off my roof. I don't know if you could hear that, but big chunks are falling off now that it's raining and warming up. But yeah, I actually really care less about these things than most people, but you'll never hear me preaching to other people about how this stuff's not the way to happiness, man. So, dude, it's none of my business what anybody else wants to do with their lives, as long as it doesn't directly affect me or the people that I care about. Makes no difference to me if you're a car guy who wants 100 collector cars, if whatever your thing is, man. It's not my thing, but so what? It's none of my business. I don't care. You're not hurting me. And I don't know, man. I think it's a bunch of crap. I think that attitude and that poison that they sell is a bunch of crap, and I think it's toxic, and I think it hurts people. I just wanted to call it out. I just called it out. And that's all I have to say, except for this. 2022 has begun. This can be the best year of your life. Let's make it successful. Let's make some really cool stuff happen. Let's focus on making our relationships the best our relationships have ever been. Let's focus on advancing our career. Let's focus on advancing our finances. We're living in a world of madness right now, and it can be very disheartening, and it can be very frightening. Solution? Focus on yourself. It's the one thing you can always control. Focus on self-improvement and focus on serving the people around you in a real and authentic way, not in a sitting in a mansion with a $1 million vase behind your head preaching to other people way, in a real and authentic way. We can do this. Good guys are going to win. 2022, Happy New Year, my friends. Take care.